Hello and welcome to Nothing Worth Saying. Today we are mixing up the format by discussing all things Champions League, looking at who is the best team in Champions League history, the best moment, who is the best player, what was the best goal, and what was the best game. We'll then go into our thoughts on this year's tournament, giving a prediction for the big final. In this episode we'll just be focusing on the Champions League era, which kicked off in the 1992-93 season, as we feel that discussing the European Cup along with the Champions League would just simply take too long. The UEFA Champions League sees the top clubs in Europe battle it out to earn the European Champions Clubs Cup. The competition is the most watched annual sporting event in the world, being screened in over 200 countries, and as a result, there is a big reward for doing well. Over €2 billion will go to clubs competing in this year's Champions League, with the winners of this year's final pocketing over €75 million. However, the prestige of lifting a trophy as iconic as this outweighs the financial reward. Just ask Aston Villa, who've been going on about their European Cup victory for over 35 years. Joining me to discuss this tournament is Joe and Tom, whose respective teams have little Champions League experience compared to the mighty Spurs. But first, we are all wearing a football shirt that is special to us today. So Joe, do you want to kick us off with what you're wearing?
Well, as you mentioned, Newcastle don't have that much Champions League experience, but the shirt I'm wearing today was worn in 1997 when we beat Barcelona 3-2 at St James's Park. Tino Asprilla hat-trick, thanks to a dodgy penalty that was definitely a dive. But, but I don't care. We beat Barcelona 3-2, and so I'm wearing the 97-99 home shirt.
How did you do in that year's Champions League? Have any idea?
I don't really want to talk about it, actually. But that's not what matters, really. It's the fact that we beat Barcelona.
Well, what about you, Tom? What are you wearing? That sounds quite flirty, this, doesn't it? What are you wearing, Tom?
What are you wearing, big boy?
So I am wearing the Stoke kit from the season that we won the League Cup, which is our first and only ever major trophy win. So we beat Chelsea in the final. So that was the big season for us. So the shirt I am wearing is from the season that Stoke won our first and only ever major trophy, although we have won the Autoglass Trophy twice, as we've discussed before. We did play in the Europa League in 2012-13, but I don't have that top from that season anymore. It was probably way too small. So this is
you're so big, to be fair.
Yeah. So this is the best and most successful league top for Stoke that I've got and probably ever will have.
I mean, Ellis, I know everyone takes a piss out of Spurs for being serial bottlers, but at least you get to see your team play. Lose the Champions League.
You're still a big club. You can't appreciate. You don't understand the plight of the medium tier, and it's not even like we're like a tiny irrelevant club. It's just like it's not a massive club. It's annoying for Stoke as well because like you've got other teams who like Aston Villa and teams like that who are kind of irrelevant now but have history, and we've got bits like winning the League Cup, Stanley Matthews, Gordon Banks, like bits to be proud of, but not a lot.
You've got a good chance though about bread.
We are the funniest football club. I stand by that. We will take the piss out of ourselves.
Didn't you burn down some pub?
Yeah, I think it was against Millwall. Yeah, funniest football club. I stand by it. I went and watched us lose against Chelsea 5-0 in the rain, and at 2-0 down, we started to sing chants like, "It's only 2-0, it's only 2-0. How shit must you be? It's only 2-0.
Didn't Stoke under 21s play Port Vale under 21s recently?
And they smashed up the entire ground. And do you remember seeing the videos of when we played Arsenal in the league? And there was all the do the Wenger. So Wenger kept getting frustrated with refereeing decisions. So he'd get up and start walking around the touchline, like waving his arms. And then all the fans just started chanting, "Let's all do the Wenger, let's all do the Wenger," standing up, waving their arms around. And there's these amazing videos of Wenger stood there just looking at the crowd, and they're just like rinsing it.
Well, my shirt is obviously this season's shirt. I think that's fair. Like, I could never imagine we'd have got to a Champions League final this year. So I've had to go out and buy the shirt for next Saturday's big final, which obviously we'll come on to discuss later. But as we said earlier, we're going to run through the Champions League history, breaking up into categories. So the first category, what do you guys think is the best team in Champions League history?
Come on,
Joe, do you want to kick us off?
Ooh, okay, I'll kick us off. So I'm a bit of a Real Madrid fanboy. I've just putting that out there a little bit. So I'm gonna have to go 2016-17 Real Madrid. That season they got the league and UCL double, which is the first time they've ever done that. And overall, they pretty much, thrashed everyone. Like they beat Napoli 6-2 in the round of 16. They beat Bayern overall. They beat Bayern with an extra time hat trick from Ronaldo in the quarterfinals. They beat Atletico Madrid 4-2 on aggregate with Ronaldo getting a hat trick in the first leg, and then they beat Juventus 4-1 in the final. Like every single game or round, they seem to absolutely kind of show why they're the best team. Even when they didn't play so well, they'd come back and just punish teams for not taking their chances.
Yeah, I think they had so much depth in that team as well.
Yeah.
In fact, in the final, Asenjo, Bale, and Morata, who was highly regarded then, came off the bench. Just shows you about like the depth they had in that side.
Exactly. Morata, it's been a long time since we've said Morata.
I think he scored 20 goals that season, didn't he?
Yeah, he was sick.
Morata, I would have scored 20 goals in that season, mate, for that team.
Morata was the head of the B team. He was unreal, and then it kind of didn't go too well for him after that.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go 18. To be fair, because they beat PSG, Juventus, and Bayern Munich to get through.
That's true. Yeah, they did have arguably a tougher one, but I think just like the kind of sometimes they thrashed teams, and then other times they would lose, either be on the losing end, and then a massive.
Was it 18? Was it 18 when they lost to Spurs?
Yeah.
Exactly. They can't be the best Champions League team.
Exactly. I mean, they came second in their group because they got two draws to Dortmund, I think. But apart from that, it's kind of like a bit of a thrashing. I mean, Ronaldo got 12 goals that season, which wasn't even his highest or anything. And it just shows that he got back-to-back hat tricks. And it's just things like that, they add to it. It was an impressive season. Just watching them, you kind of knew who was going to win.
Yeah, it was never in question, really, was it?
Yeah.
They're such a resilient squad, aren't they?
Exactly.
They win when the chips are down, which I think is probably their best feature.
Proper, professionals, just top level. Great side.
It's like United. They
get the job done.
It gets to 94th minute, and you think they could still win this.
Yeah, and I think the teams they play know that as well, because they all start getting a bit nervous, and because it's almost expected.
Yeah.
That's why this season was so shocking, because I thought when they were down against Ajax, I thought, they'll do the classic Real Madrid to come back to win and get through.
Yeah, but how did they do that? They don't go and score worldies. They're just like Ronaldo will grab them a goal. They aren't the same team without him, and you can't be. Yeah, you'd score a good header, or you'd make a run and just get a tap in or something like that.
All right, well, Tom, who's your best team, would you say?
So my best team is AC Milan from 2007, which was an amazing team in its own right, but I think also it's a bit of a legends team. So if I quickly go through the team, you've got Dida, Cafu, Nesta, Maldini, Gattuso, Pirlo, Seedorf, Kaká, Inzaghi, and you've got Carlo Ancelotti as a manager. Now, there's some absolute icons, like legends of football there. You've got 4 World Cup winners in that team. Season they won that year, that was Maldini and Seedorf's 5th Champions League win. That was Seedorf is one of the only players, or I think he's the only player to win the Champions League with 3 different clubs. And if you look at who they beat Liverpool in the final that year, that was 2 years after losing the famous Istanbul final. So that kind of shows resilience to go back and beat the same team again. I think the only real problem with that team is probably in the league, and in Italy they didn't do as well. They didn't win the league, or they didn't win the Coppa Italia. But for me, that's just a really iconic team, and especially the kind of sort of age I would have been when I was growing up and watching football. That would have been one of the first teams that I watched and kind of thought, that's an amazing side. I remember I always used to play with them on FIFA at the time, and beat my dad 2 or 3-0 because he was probably taking it easy on me or whatever. But that was one of the first amazing football teams I ever remember.
I think the big thing with that team is, didn't they lose Shevchenko that year as well? I think to Chelsea.
Yeah.
So everyone thought, perhaps they're a team on the decline. In 2004, I think there was that game against Deportivo where they pulled off an amazing comeback. 2005, Istanbul, they bottled it then. So there was a sort of, you didn't know whether they were
you're kind of thinking your time's a bit past. Another 2 years on. Yeah, and they're starting to get on a bit. I know Pirlo won his first, not Pirlo, sorry, Maldini won his first Champions League or European Cup in 1989. He's playing in the final in 2007.
He still had another ridiculous number of years left in him, didn't he? He retired and I can't remember if it was 9 or 11, but he still stayed on after that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the dismay of Joe for Barcelona of 2009 as my best team in Champions League history. In that 2009 pit in the year, they won 6 trophies, which is absolutely outrageous, just pure dominance. Man United, who won the Premier League, Champions League in 2008, they were considered one of the best teams in the world at that time, were absolutely torn apart in that 2009 final. I think even Ferguson said we were absolutely outclassed in that game. It's just the football they play, as in they always make a player's always available in space for a pass, and the instant the ball is lost, players were going in hungry packs to almost try and win that ball back. I think they averaged over 70% possession in the league that year as well, which is just ridiculous.
Having seen City in the league this year, talking about how amazing they are, it kind of reminds you just what that Barcelona team used to be like how hard they used to work and how well they kind of play.
There was rumours that they were like a bit dodgy in defence and we get them, but for instance, in the league, I know the league is different to Champions League, but they scored 105 goals and only conceded 35. So,
that was back in Puyol's glory days. One of my favourite players of all time.
I do like Puyol.
Amazing player. Like all the kind of clips of him where like some Madrid fan throwing a lighter at Piqué and he's got like put his hand on his eye and he's like, "It's really hurt me," and Puyol's just grabbed the lighter, thrown it off the pitch and shoved Piqué and be like, "Get on with the game." Or like they'd scored the 4th goal against like some irrelevant Spanish team, and like Neymar's doing like some like stupid celebration. He just walks over and slaps him around the head and makes him carry on. Whatever it is, proper just honest, hard-working centre half. You don't get enough of him anymore.
Just to list that team, I think for the final of that tournament, Valdez, Piqué, Puyol, Xavi, Iniesta, Eto'o, Messi, Henry, Silvinho, Yaya Touré, Sergio Busquets.
Was that the season where Iniesta scored the like last-minute goal at Stamford Bridge?
Well, that's their one.
2011.
I think that's their one drawback is although they've thrashed teams like, for instance, Bayern won the previous round of 16 match 12-1 against Sporting. So everyone was like, Bayern's going to go on and perhaps dominate. And then Barca beat Bayern 5-1 in aggregate in the next leg. But yeah, that's the one issue, I think. That 2009 semi, they got very, very lucky. I think the visual of that when
sometimes you need a little bit of luck, though.
Drogba's screaming, "It's a disgrace, it's a disgrace." And they probably should have had about 4 penalties in that game in 2009. But then obviously in 2012 it was repaid when Barca definitely should have beaten Chelsea. And I guess it's karma, I suppose.
Suarez!
But yeah, I just think they're an amazing team. I was tempted to go for 2011, but I just think the front three of Henry, Eto'o and Messi sort of is better than Villa, Messi, Pedro. So that's sort of the main reason why 2019. And it was the first Guardiola team, which is always, I think, special.
Yeah, of course.
Because they brought a different style of football, didn't they? That we'd not seen before.
Exactly, yeah, it completely changed it. And that's one thing I'd say about, I don't think Madrid, in comparing the two, I don't think Madrid or my AC Milan team kind of brought a new style. AC Milan kind of did really well that kind of classic Italian style of play with like defending well, but they didn't create that themselves. And Real Madrid, I don't even know if I could say they've got like one particular style of football. They were just a really good team. Maybe they counter-attacked a bit.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Zidane's Real Madrid compared to like previous ones, they didn't play differently. It's just the players were a bit more expressive, and like if you watch them, like the highlights, they kind of do a lot more. It's not like tiki-taka, but they're just passing for like passing.
Yeah, just interchange. Like they played so well,
and they're being really like flashy with it. But yeah, they didn't like bring a new style like Guardiola did.
I think it was sort of like Guardiola was schooled from Johan Cruyff, wasn't he? So you had that great Barcelona side in the early 90s, 92, I think. And then it just sort of, it wasn't new. It was just an evolution of that. It was an evolution from that Cruyff era team. And then they've just perfected it in 2000, in that Guardiola period between, 2008 and 2012. I think just the depth of that side as well. Like in the 2010 Ballon d'Or shortlist, you had Messi, Iniesta, Xavi for the best player in the world. So you had the top 3 players in the world in 2010, 1 year after it, at one time in the same team. And then, which I just think speaks volumes. And they were very unlucky in that 2010 semi-final against Mourinho. Mourinho's Inter. They should have gone through. They had a goal wrongly disallowed in that. So arguably, you could have had 3 on the bounce in that Champions League. And then they were very unlucky in 2012 as well. They should have beaten that Chelsea team. So although they only won 2 in that Guardiola period, they could have easily won 4 or 5, like I guess Madrid had done recently. All right then. Well, I think that's best team covered. Obviously, there are other brilliant teams like that Bayern team in 2013. I just thought they were dominant. Like they won the treble that season for them. They beat Barcelona 7-0 on aggregate.
Yeah.
In the semi-final. Yeah, I just think they were they're a brilliant side. You had Madrid, Man United in '99 who won the treble, and
that was today actually. That was today 20 years ago. Yeah.
It's just the resilience that team showed. Like against Juventus, chips were down. Roy Keane steps up and then basically drags them into that final. And then in the final, without Roy Keane, their talisman, they came back basically in the last minute of the game, scoring 2 goals to literally break Bayern's hearts. And yeah, I guess those were the other candidates we could have said. Right. So yeah, let's move on then. The next category, best moment.
So I think best moment for me was when Lucas Moura completed his hat-trick against Ajax the other week in the second leg of the semi-final. And I have to say, I went into the game thinking I kind of want Ajax to win. Like, not massively, but, you know, I wanted to see them, like, kind of back as a good, well-known European side again, rather than just being like, oh, some Dutch team. And the way Moura, who was awful in the first leg, like Moura was crap in the first leg, he completely turned it around. And I think the thing that sticks with me most is the commentary from Darren Fletcher, and they kind of don't expect it to happen. Like even though this counter, like this, you know, it's a big Spurs counter, they're all piling forward, and I thought that this has to be a goal, and they kind of don't expect it. And the way Onana dives, he's not expecting it either. He just kind of like falls on the floor. And when it goes in, like, I mean, Darren Fletcher's absolutely screaming. And you can hear that Jermaine Genius has gone away from his mic and is just like crying. And it's absolutely, the emotion was absolutely fantastic. So I think that's probably the best moment I've like ever seen.
Yeah, it's probably my best moment as a Spurs. As in, I didn't expect it. All it was a Sissoko punt. We were ready to sort of say, oh, it's the classic narrative. Spurs valiant in the semi-final, but then eventually go out.
Eventually bottle it.
And it was, and you just weren't expecting it when Sissoko does that big long ball. You just think, oh, it's a kick and hope. Especially considering Ajax had it almost in the corner not that long ago.
2 seconds before.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, I was just off my sofa, screaming, shouting, going crazy. Woke my sister up because she was in bed. A bit early for her, to be fair. That's what I was saying.
Actually.
It was just outrageous scenes. I was literally, because it was so unexpected. You just don't expect that with Tottenham. You expect it with a Real Madrid, perhaps, our classic Real Madrid comeback. You don't expect it with us. And to get to a Champions League final for the first time ever is just outrageous stuff. I just can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be so nervous for me, but it's going to be brilliant. Well, my best moment features my team as well. I'm going to go for that VAR moment, Man City versus Spurs.
Yeah.
3-2 in 21 minutes. And Aguero looked like the game won before Llorente just somehow bundled that shot home. How he didn't actually get like a proper head to it just shows he's an idiot.
Complete donkey, but right place, right time.
Yeah, he somehow managed to put it in. But then, obviously, City just put us under relentless pressure. Lloris played an absolute blinder that game. And you thought when Eriksen did that stupid, like ridiculous thing, and it came off the Man City player to put Aguero in, and then Sterling, like fair play to him, it was brilliant skill to put that ball in, and the Etihad was just going crazy. Like I was literally on the floor at that point. I just fell out of my sofa. Like, you thought it was over, and then I quickly saw our VAR check, so I was like, oh, what's going on here? Like, and I thought Aguero looked onside as well. I just thought, they're obviously going to give that goal to City. But then it just said VAR check overruled, and you just saw Pep Guardiola just put his hands on his head, fall onto his knees, and then I was absolutely jumping in the air because it was the strangest feeling because you feel like you've lost everything, and then like you feel like you're lost, you're out, and then suddenly you're back in it. From the jaws of defeat, you've somehow managed to get a victory. And against Man City, I thought we'd never get through. I thought that was the worst tie you could have possibly had. But then somehow we managed to get through, and that momentum sort of carried on to the Ajax game as well.
That game of football was the most insane thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a game of football like that in my life. It was by far the best game I've ever seen, and I only watched the second half of it. That was it was amazing.
It's the first half goals as well.
Yeah, oh my God, it was nothing like it. Like, I'm not even a Spurs or City fan, so I wasn't that invested, but I was completely glued to the screen.
Well, did you see that Rio Ferdinand, Hoddle, and Lineker just going out?
Yeah. I thought Hoddle was going to end up in hospital again. I was worried for him for a second.
He was when he was saying after the Ajax game that he was just like so like thankful to be there and see it. I was just like, oh, that's quite. It hit quite hard actually because I don't really like Glenn Hoddle at all because I think he's a bit of a boring
comments, hasn't he?
He's and he's said some suspect things in the past. But when he said that, I kind of like forgot all of it and just saw like this kind of old man who's just happy to see his football team do well, which is quite touching, really.
Yeah, he's supported the club since 8. He's been there for the hard times. So just brilliant. Right, Tom, what about you then? What's your best ever Champions League moment?
So I'm talking about the Barcelona comeback versus PSG. Now, I remember, you'll probably remember this as well, Ellis. There was a big march on in Bath, and our whole house was going to go out on this feminist march. And I said, no, I'm not going. It's Stoke versus Man City, and it's Barcelona versus PSG. I'm not leaving the house. And am I glad I made that decision? So, obviously, Barcelona, they're doing really well. They've scored 3 goals, and you're thinking, oh, there's a chance they can do this here. And then they don't score for a little while. PSG score in about the 60th minute, and you're thinking, they're not going to score another 3 goals, surely. And they keep going on not scoring, and then they score in the 88th minute, and in the 91st minute, and then you've had 5 minutes of added time, and you're thinking, no way, they're out now, they're out. It's the last kick of the game. And literally with the last kick of the game, they've floated a ball over the top, and they've managed to get onto the end of it and score in the 95th minute to go through 6-5 on aggregate, having lost the first leg 4-0. It's the first time a side has ever overturned a 4-0 deficit, and it was just amazing to see. It was absolute scenes.
Yeah,
and
I regret going on
Stoke lost to City that night. Yeah, it was amazing, and I had a bet on them to do it, so I'm even happier. But my moment that I wanted to suggest as well isn't footballing in the same way, but it's an amazing story, and it's the Barcelona 2011 final. So in that season, Eric Abidal was ill with cancer, and he underwent surgery and managed to recover from his cancer. And then after Barca won the final, the whole team went up to get the trophy. And Puyol has picked the trophy up off the stand and not lifted it up himself. He's given it to Eric Abidal to lift up for the whole crowd to celebrate with, which I think is an amazing story. From him had cancer and overcome that and then go and lift the Champions League like that. And I was talking about how amazing I think Puyol was. That's another example of it. So away from footballing and the actual game, I think that was an amazing moment.
No, I'd agree. That's touching as well. Right, so this could be the one that sparks off the biggest debate, I think. The best player in Champions League history. Now, I assume all of us are going to narrow it down to 2. There's been
it's the big debate of this season. Is it Llorente or Origi? the two bastions of football in history.
Yeah, I think the thing that shows their dominance is Cristiano Ronaldo in the knockout stages only has scored more goals than all players bar Raul and Messi. And that's just in the knockout stages, not including group goals. So that just shows how dominant these two have been. So, Joe, do you want to kick us off with your argument in favour of someone?
I'm going to go Fred. So Fred joined Man United from... no. So, obviously, as a bit of a Real Madrid fan, I'm going to say Ronaldo. Quite a few reasons for this. He has the most goals on 126. He has the second highest group stage goals behind Messi, but also has the most knockout stage goals with 65. I mean, 65 is mad. Benzema is what? He's the fourth highest goal scorer.
Yeah,
and he's on less than that.
Yes.
He's got the most goals in finals in the Champions League era on 4. There's 3 goalkeepers who are vying for the top spot of conceding the most goals. They are Willand, Buffon, and Neuer.
So he does it against the best teams.
Yeah, he does it against the best teams. He scored 8 hat-tricks, and that's level with Messi, but he scored 2 back-to-back, and he scored 3 in a season. He's the only person who's done that.
I think the big thing about Ronaldo, even this year, he scored a hat-trick to keep Juventus in the Champions League
and he
against
played
Atletico.
Badly. Yeah, and he's played, by his standards, badly. And he's still scored 6 goals.
Yeah, he's also got the most assists, which I feel that isn't talked about him enough. People think, he's just a goal scorer, a relentless goal scorer, but he has produced a lot of assists as well in his Champions League tenure. I think he's on 40 odd now, 44, maybe more. But yeah, that's what's not talked about the player a lot.
I think the thing with Ronaldo, I think partly the way people talk about him, they kind of mention him as like a machine, and I think it's probably pretty true the way he plays, but that I don't think that fully gives him credit because it makes it sound like it's kind of all tap-ins or this or that. But there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of creativity in there, there's a lot of amazing goals, there's a lot more to him than just him being a machine.
Yeah, I think the thing that separates Ronaldo and Messi, I think personally Messi is the better player for me. But I think what I like more about Ronaldo is the fact that he's not as talented as Messi is. Messi is pure talent, while Ronaldo's hard work, and you can see it. And when he doesn't perform well, obviously he cries a lot, which is quite funny. But I think a lot of the time it's just because he's annoyed with himself because he wants.
Why is that funny, Joe? I think that's toxic masculinity. It's funny to cry.
It is when it's Ronaldo.
Well, look at his age as well. He's doing it a ridiculous age. 34 now?
He's 34 now.
And he's still
levels
doing
above
absolute bits, isn't he?
And he knocked Atletico out with a hat-trick. It's
well, exactly.
Quite scary.
Tom, what about you? Who do you think is the best player?
Yeah, so I'm going to take up the other side of this argument, and then we'll see where you fall in the end. But I'm going to talk about Lionel Messi. Again, he's won 4 Champions League trophies. He's, as Joe said, he's got the joint most hat-tricks. He was the first player ever to score 5 goals in one game, which is absolutely insane. That was against Bayer Leverkusen in 2012. So it's not even against a Apoel Nicosia or some completely irrelevant team.
Yeah, who cares
Bayer
about
Leverkusen.
Who cares about them?
Yeah, exactly. Who would ever talk about them? And as we talked about, I just think for me, he's an artist. I think Ronaldo's a machine, but Messi is an artist. And then I know if I had to pay money to go see any one footballer in the world, it'd be Lionel Messi. Just because you see a lot of his goals and he'll just skip past 3 or 4 or 5 players. There was a clip that went viral, I think it was against Atletico in the league this year, where the ball's flicked up in the air, he's brought it down, dragged it kind of down as it's fallen to Meggs, the defender behind him, turned, beaten 2 or 3 players and then put it in the net. And it's just amazing. It's amazing to watch play football. The creativity. And I think if you look at the total number of goals, Ronaldo, I just think Real Madrid have been a lot more dominant for a longer time. There was a decent period of time, a few years, where really Messi was kind of carrying Barcelona to a certain extent. Not completely, obviously surrounded by better players, but
Don't know about that.
after they won that 2011, 2012, after that kind of time period, they start like the team didn't really play as well.
But I think
Messi still was kind of putting in these performances. Whereas Real Madrid won their first Champions League of this kind of era. Did they win one in kind of 2010 or 12, that kind of time period?
14,
and then
I think.
Was it 14? They consistently just kind of been one of the best for, I think, a longer period of time.
But can you say that, look at Real Madrid's fortune since Ronaldo's left? They have gone like down the pan since he's...
Yeah, but I think what would have happened if Messi had left at Barcelona, I think a similar thing would have happened.
I think the big argument back in the day with Messi was, he's playing with Xavi and Iniesta. Anyone could score with Xavi and Iniesta playing with you.
Yeah.
But then I think that argument sort of fallen since, because even since Xavi and Iniesta have sort of gone off the pace a bit or got older, Messi still carried on scoring goals.
Yeah. And so he plays differently now. He didn't need to drop deep and take the ball as much then because he had those players. Whereas now, a lot of the time, he'll drop deep and kind of just take the ball and go forwards with it. And just no one can take the ball off him. It's not even just about his goal scoring. You just watch him with the ball. No one can ever take it off him. It's always either he gets past him or it's a foul. It's amazing to watch play football.
Yeah, well, I've actually seen Messi and Ronaldo both play. And that was Messi's just... The thing is, Ronaldo didn't really do much that game. I know it depends on the game itself. Like, we beat Madrid convincingly that year. There was olays going around the stadium. Ronaldo still managed to score, though, really had one chance in the game, scored. Like, Ronaldo's not going to...
Yeah.
The thing is, with Messi, he just ran rings around us. I think what is talked about him the most, like everyone talks about his dribbling goal scoring ability, but his vision and his passing is second to none.
Yeah.
Like in that game, he picks up the ball, he goes past the player, and he does a perfectly weighted pass. Also, he's always looking for the ball. He's always wandering around the pitch. He has a free role in that team, and you can't mark him. It's very, very hard to mark him out of the game because he can just go by you with one quick piece of skill, a quick turn of pace.
I think that's the difference when you watch them. Ronaldo, he probably won't really do much in the game, but he'll get a chance, he'll finish it, and he'll score 2 or 3 goals and just kind of float in and out of the game. Whereas Messi is always involved. It'll just be 90 minutes of him picking up the ball, beating a player, passing it on again, picking up a ball, beating another 1 or 2 players and passing it, whatever it is. Like, it's just amazing. It's like clockwork. You just watch him all the time. Every time he picks it up, it's perfection. It's amazing.
You can play Messi anywhere as well. Like, even if you wanted to put him as he gets older, put him as like a quarterback of that Barcelona team, stick him sort of in the Pirlo role, he could play that role. He could play any role sort of in the front line of that pitch. And that's why I'd side with Messi as well. He's won the Ballon d'Or and World Player of the Year award in 2009, the season I was talking about, by record voting margins. He's been the Champions League top scorer in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2015. And he's also got the most assists in a couple of those seasons, most notably 2015, where he got 6 assists. I think that was maybe one of his best seasons, that 2015, where with Messi, Suarez, Neymar, he was unbelievable that year, especially since from January. I think in 2012 he got 91 goals in a calendar year.
Jeez.
Which is unspeakable, really, considering players are doing well to get about 30 in a calendar year, 30 in a calendar year, and he's getting 90, and that broke Muller's record by, I think it was almost around nearly 20 goals. That just shows the levels he's.
How many goals did you score in the season for the Eastwood Dartford, tell us, Wales?
Around that, a similar amount, I'd think. But back to Messi, he has a higher minutes per goal ratio. Ronaldo has a higher minutes per goal ratio than Messi, but has played around 30 games more. So Messi scored more than Ronaldo on minute-wise. Obviously, we'll see what happens when Messi gets to 34, 30. Maybe he'll slow down. Ronaldo hasn't slowed down. If anything, he's sped up. Messi might slow down, but at the minute, he's got a higher minutes per goal ratio.
I don't think Messi will slow down. I mean, you look at him in La Liga this season. He was unreal.
It's difficult to say. I think the way Messi plays will lend itself to slowing down before Ronaldo. But he's a complete freak of nature, and you can't really use logic around him.
I think
He's got such amazing balance and vision, as we've talked about, and it's just his control and skill that he can maybe lose his pace a bit. And if they can manage how many minutes he's playing as well, then he could probably keep going for a good few years. He's still outrageously good.
Yeah. I think what Juventus need to do now that they've got Ronaldo is play him properly, because what they were doing was just playing him all the time in the league when they didn't really need him to, and then he was not as fit as he could be for the Champions League.
Yeah.
And then before the Atletico game, the second one, because obviously they were losing on aggregate, they rested him in the league, and the rest he comes on, scores a hat-trick. So I think if Juventus can play him properly like Real Madrid have done the past few years, then we'll see this season from him as a bit of a blip, because
they need to use him the same way that kind of England used James Anderson in cricket. He's an amazing player, and we're never going to have another one like him. So what do? We go, okay, he's absolutely amazing in English conditions, and we need him for big test matches. So we aren't going to take him and make him play loads of tours over in in a foreign country because he isn't as good there. We don't make him play loads of the one days or T20s because he's not as good and it's not as important. But if we've got a home Ashes series, we're going to make sure he's fit to play it. I think that's the way to use him. And again, save his legs. Just use him as a striker, as a kind of tap-in merchant, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because if you give him a chance, he'll score.
I think
he's amazing in that.
The big thing with both Messi and Ronaldo is just they do it in the big games. For instance, Messi scored into the 2009 final. He was man of the match in the 2011 final. I think he scored as well. And even in the 2015 final, he played a role in every single goal. And then you look at the semi-finals as well. Like, we all remember that time when he absolutely murdered Boateng. Chipped Neuer. I think you've got a pickup line from that, haven't you? You've got the Neuer pickup line.
Yeah.
What is it? It's like
it's like, oh, hey, and it's like, oh, I've got a boyfriend, and you're like, yeah, every goal has a goalkeeper, but you still try and score. It's like he's 6'6", and it's like Manuel Neuer's 6'6", but Messi still chipped in.
Even again, Ronaldo's he scored in 3 separate finals as well.
Yeah.
He scored 4 goals in that period.
Yeah,
so
you can tell because if there's a big game that they don't score in, everyone just kind of is shocked. They're like, I can't believe he didn't score, or like it'll always get brought up. And I think that's how you know it's expected that they will.
Perhaps that's what separates your Henry from your Messi and Ronaldo, in the sense like Henry in the last stage of the Champions League. I think there was a Twitter thread about it. He didn't really score many goals in the latter stages, and I think he missed quite a few chances in that 2006 final. But Messi and Ronaldo, you don't get that. They're big game players and they perform in the biggest stage of all.
Yeah.
How did Henry play in the World Cup finals for France, though? I don't know the exact numbers on there. When they won in '98.
Oh, don't forget he was a kid at that point. Really, he didn't really play as much as other players. I think you had Trezeguet at that period. He was their lead in the line for them.
Yeah, that's very true.
Okay, so I think we've covered. Obviously, we're not going to come up with a decision on best player. Like, they're both world class. I think one player that isn't
Danny Rose.
Oh,
he's been playing bloody well recently. That nutmeg on De Ligt. That nutmeg on De Ligt
was quite filthy,
pretty special. But you've got Raul. He was a brilliant player. I think he's fallen in a terrible era, isn't he? Because right before Ronaldo, right before the Spain squad won everything, and he's sort of been forgotten about. But he did score over 70 Champions League goals, which is outrageous. Obviously, Xavi and Iniesta, brilliant players. Even Ryan Giggs, like, he held the most assists for ages until Ronaldo came along and toppled him. And Seedorf, as you said, Tom, he's the only player to win the Champions League with 3 different clubs, which is pretty special. I always look back at the Ronaldinho as well, that 2006.
He was amazing to watch, Ronaldinho.
That goal against Chelsea, when he sort of like shimmied a bit and just dumbfounded the Chelsea goalkeeper to send them through.
Yeah,
just outrageous.
amazing.
Zidane, we haven't even talked about Zidane.
Zidane.
Right, so let's move on. The best ever Champions League goal. Joe, do you want to start?
Well, this one a little bit special to me. It's not a fantastic game, as you mentioned before.
It was a massive moment.
It's a huge moment in a little boy's life. All right. It's so I went to Spain to see Spanish family friends, and they took us to the Real Madrid game, and I didn't really know.
Your reaction was, I don't like football. I don't.
Well,
want
my
to go.
reaction was like, oh, that's cool, but like, I didn't really, I didn't know or like particularly care much about football at this point. I was a MotoGP guy. That was my hipster sport.
You were the cool kid, weren't you?
Yeah. Anyway, so turns out it's a Champions League quarterfinal, and I was like, oh, that is quite cool. And it's Real Madrid versus Apoel Nicosia. The game ends 5-2. All the Apoel fans know
That's Apoel Nicosia, yeah? They won 5-2.
Yeah, of course.
Because that could have gone either way.
The atmosphere was absolutely incredible. Like you'd think like it wouldn't be that good because like Real Madrid expect to win. No. Their ultras were going off it all night. Apoel fans had flares and everything. It was brilliant. And in that game,
just ask where are Apoel Nicosia from? Where is that?
Cyprus.
Okay.
But that's the thing. That's what was so good about it. They were a crap team, and they got to the quarterfinal. Like they were having the time of their life. Like the players were having a brilliant time. But for Real Madrid, it was like this kind of, we actually really need to show that we're a good side, because if we win like 1 or 2-0 against these guys, we're going to look quite crap. So Kaká scored an absolute worldie. And this is Kaká at Real Madrid, so it wasn't prime Kaká.
Yeah. Another player we didn't mention.
Exactly, another player that we didn't mention. But honestly, his goal was insane. But that's not the goal I want to talk about. The best goal was Ronaldo's second goal, which was his free kick from an absolutely horrendous angle on the outside of the box, and the way he bends it to hit the actual corner of the bar and bounce behind the keeper is actually it's mad, because it hangs in the air for so long and then just bends down just behind his hands. It was absolutely fantastic.
I think everyone was expecting. Well, if it wasn't Ronaldo, you would be expected to cross that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There's no chance in hell you're going to shoot, but because it's Ronaldo, he's obviously going to shoot, and it's just the perfect free kick, really, wasn't it? From that range.
I think that's the thing. Like that's what it is for me. It was like I was there, and I saw who was the best player in the world, or the top joint best player in the world, or whatever, score the perfect free kick. It's just mad, and that's what got me into football, really.
All right, well, Tom, what about you?
So my favourite goal, I'm going to mention this one partly to upset Joe. Lionel Messi versus Real Madrid in 2011 at the Bernabeu Champions League semi-final. He's rolled the ball into Busquets just inside the Real Madrid half. Busquets has laid it off to him, and then he just runs through the Madrid defence like they aren't there. Goes past Ramos as if he's some kind of knockoff Tom Hawkins playing at centre half. It's absolutely amazing. And then he just coolly slots it past Casillas. And Casillas just kind of stands up and looks around like, what is going on? What has just happened? And the Barcelona fans are going mental. Messi is just kind of in awe. Like, it's an amazing, amazing moment. Like, when he first, the start of the clip, and it's about a 10-second clip when you watch it, the start of the clip, you're just kind of like, he's just in the middle of the pitch with the ball. He's in the centre circle. And you've got 2 banks for Real Madrid. And it's not like he's been really flashy and done something like that. He's just gone through them. It's absolutely amazing to watch. So that's what I would decide is my favourite goal.
Joe, thoughts?
No, he's right. It was unreal. And it's the fact that he makes Ramos, who is my favourite defender, and Casillas, who obviously is an absolute legend, look
stupid. Yeah.
It's what I mean. It's that kind of. It's just levels, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I'm going to go for Bale's overhead kick against Liverpool.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cross comes in from Marcelo. And
It's
for
not a
some
great
reason,
cross either, is it?
no, it's a bad
No, it was a
cross.
bit behind him. That's why he's gone for the overhead kick. It's
Yeah,
behind him.
it's behind him. There's no in a Champions League final to think, oh, what am I going to do? An overhead kick,
The audacity, the absolute balls of that lad.
and it
In
just yeah,
awe of the size of the lad.
it's just perfectly struck shot right on his left peg, and left Karius completely dumbfounded. And it was also a crucial goal in a massive game. Like it put Madrid 2-1 up against Liverpool, so it put them back ahead.
Yeah, that's why it's better than Ronaldo's, because I think Ronaldo's is a lot more pleasing to watch.
It's the
Which
big
connects with it a bit better. But the atmosphere, the moment is amazing.
Big games, like as in your one, big game, Madrid Barca, like Joe's one, massive game, Well Nicosia. Just I think a big game.
Just the audacity to attempt that against the Apoel Nicosia.
I think the story of that final is brilliant as well, because Bale was extremely upset that he wasn't starting. Like he was in ridiculously good form, and he probably should have been playing in that match. So to come on for like a special goal like that must have felt amazing.
Amazing goal, and it righted everything with the fans, and he's loved there now, and it's all gone so right. Zidane stayed.
I think they're so fickle, don't you?
So
Madrid fans.
Yeah, they are. Real Madrid fans are the worst.
They don't realise that what Bale's done for him. Like he's played a big role in helping them win all these Champions Leagues. His goal record isn't even that bad. It's like it's pushing 1 in 2.
Yeah, he's scored over 100 goals now. I think he's played about 200 and something games.
But the most important thing is that you can't speak Spanish.
And he plays golf a lot.
Yeah.
I think I do understand why Real Madrid fans aren't a big fan of him, to be honest. Like he says he wants to stay and he loves it here, but he hasn't learned the language and he doesn't spend time with his teammates at all.
It's Brits abroad.
I saw Courtois arguing with him about like staying out for coffees until 1 in the morning or something. But then I'm also looking around like, why is Courtois staying out to drink coffee at 1 in the morning? you should be going home.
Like, Courtois, you're pretty crap this season. You need your sleep, buddy. Like, he plays a lot of golf, which Perez is not a big fan of. Perez is saying
he's
like
got a 3-hole golf course in his place back in Wales.
Oh, really?
His own little course.
He loves golf. Bale was saying like, it's all come to a head, hasn't it? Really, like the whole Zidane Bale feud, and Bale was like, "I'm staying unless someone can pay for me, but if they can't, I'm just going to stay here and just play golf."
Yeah,
I thought, you know what?
Zidane said, if I had a 4th substitute, I wouldn't have brought him on. And then he was just like, well, I'm not leaving and taking a pay cut. If you don't want to play me, I'm happy to just stay here and play golf. I don't care, which I quite like.
I admire it, honestly, because I like Zidane a lot, and I don't know why he doesn't like Bale, because Bale's done a lot for him, and Bale's a good player. I just don't.
Madrid are short of good players. I know they want Hazard, but they are short. Bale is on his days, he probably is their best player still, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You're taking a real risk letting him go. Other goals of note, though, for this, Stankovic for Inter. He scored a volley from around the halfway line within the first 30 seconds of a match against Schalke. And it was
Ronaldo versus Porto.
Ronaldo v Porto, yeah, that's a brilliant one.
Mandzukic versus Real Madrid.
What was that, Joe? I didn't know.
Mandzukic, when he played in the final when Real Madrid beat them 4-1, and it's 1-0 at this point, and Mandzukic just goes like, "I'm just going to try an overhead kick now." and then it has such a lasting impression that Ronaldo tries it in the second half and fails quite miserably, and then tries it again in the next season, and well, you know what happens? He scores it.
I think you have Mexes versus Anderlecht in 2012. He's got a bicycle kick from outside the box from a ridiculous angle, and obviously one we haven't considered, the Zidane volley in 2002 against Leverkusen, which is widely regarded as one of the best goals, I think.
It's when he was asked about it, when Ronaldo and Bale had both scored these ridiculous overhead kicks, and he was still like, "Mine's still better."
He is French.
Yeah, that is very true.
All right, well, let's go for the best Champions League game of all time. Joe, you've kicked off with the last few, so.
I'm going to go Liverpool's 4-0 win the other week against Barca. I mean, I know all my examples are quite recent, but I think it just shows that the competition.
Well, you didn't like football before, did you?
The past 2 years, the thing that you hear every single time, like, during halftime commentary and everything, is it's mad, isn't it? This season, the Champions, it's just getting better and better. I think it's true. Like every season, it just gets more mad. And
don't forget, no team ever came back from like a 2-goal deficit in the first leg before the 1999 to 2000 season.
Yeah.
And now look at it, like Man United's comeback against PSG is not even talked about in the top 2 of this season. So yeah, just outrageous. But carry on.
Yeah, that's because of the pen. That was because of the pen that shouldn't have been.
Yeah, that's true. I do think Man United got a soft penalty there. But I think the thing is, right, I didn't actually see this game, which is really annoying. I went and saw Avengers because I thought, it was exam season and my mates want to go see it. And I was like, well, I've got a few days. I'll go see Avengers. Oh, the Liverpool game's on. It's foregone conclusion. Like, there's no way. It's just going to be maybe a 2-1 game. Barcelona go through. Scout is crying, which is quite funny, so whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to miss that.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, whatever. I came out, turned my phone on, and my phone is going absolutely massive with my mate Tom George, who I live with. He said, Joe, I don't know what's going on, but I know you've absolutely fucked it by going to the cinema tonight because Liverpool have done something mad. And well, I mean, you guys know what my reaction was. The chat had been quite quiet for a while, and then there's just me saying, "For fuck's sake!" So I went back and watched it, and oh my god, incredible! I think the thing that's funniest is the fact that how Tottenham's comeback was a second half hat trick.
Yeah.
Most, pretty much all of Liverpool's was in the second half as well. They scored that 1 goal in the first half, but that was it. Like, you thought 1-0. It's not.
I think it was all in a 6-minute window, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the fact that Wijnaldum, who honed his craft at Newcastle United, comes on and scores 2 goals in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Not less. It absolutely mad. Like, both pretty good goals as well. And then that Trent Alexander-Arnold corner. I don't like Trent Alexander-Arnold that much, but I thought that corner was absolutely incredible. What? Sorry?
Such quick thinking, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's the way that in fact, all the Liverpool team didn't expect it either. Only Origi was kind of looking in his direction. Everyone else just had no idea what was going on. So when it's when you see the replay from behind the goal and ter Stegen's kind of clapping his team, saying "Come on, guys," and then he looks, and then in slow motion you can see him just shit himself and try and set himself for a save. It's incredible, and I have to say it was quite funny after Suarez celebrated so hard against Liverpool in the previous game, which Champions League semi-final I can understand. But at the same time, this is the club that stuck with Suarez through absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Through his racism and his biting and just being Suarez. I don't like Suarez. Just being Suarez, and they stuck through him, and then to just repay them with that goal and celebration, I thought it was very funny that he got kicked out.
If it was anyone but Liverpool, I'd be like, why has he done that? But it's pretty funny because it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Tom, what do you think is your best ever game in the Champions League?
My favourite ever game was one of the first kind of games again. I talked about how AC Milan were one of the first teams I remember being amazing. This was another one of the first games I can really remember watching. This was back before Stoke were in the Premier League. I used to really like Chelsea. I used to be a massive, I absolutely love Frank Lampard.
You're a racist.
Pardon?
So you're a racist. Chelsea's biggest rival is Kick It Out.
fuck's sake.
That's my favourite joke.
But anyway, yeah. So Chelsea won the first leg at home 3-1, and then then Liverpool are playing quite well. The game's kind of quite tight. It was just an amazing game. It ended up 4-4. So it was 4-3 to Liverpool with 7 minutes of normal time left. And Liverpool just needed one more goal to go through. And you're thinking, oh here we go. They're going to do it. And then Lampard converted a pass from Nicholas Anelka, who is not exactly a bastion of Champions League history, but Frank Lampard, absolute legend, to make it 4-4 to go through on away goals. Absolutely amazing. Plus, you've got Alex's free kick that he scored. That was an absolute barnstormer. He's absolutely rifled it in. And it's not just like someone amazing that scored an amazing free kick. It's literally Alex that scored this amazing free kick against Liverpool.
He's done a few of them, hasn't he? Like he has,
yeah.
He does that run up where he just does this really long run up and just.
He runs really long, really hard and fast and straight at the ball, and just rifles it top bins. It was amazing. Yeah, so I just remember that game being like, oh my god, this is insane, because we talked about this season, kind of, so we've seen lots of really high scoring games, but back 2009, Liverpool and Chelsea were both kind of quite good in the league, and just seeing 4-4 was amazing to me about that.
Yeah. Well, I could have easily gone with like the Tottenham games and stuff, but I think we talked about them already, and I don't want this to be the Tottenham show. So I think the best Champions League game of all time is Liverpool-Milan 2005 final. It's in a Champions League final for it to happen as well. It is just incredible. So Liverpool went 1 down in 53 seconds with Paolo Maldini, who we talked about, getting the opener. And they then got a second with Liverpool players were protesting down the other end for their own penalty. And yeah, went down the other end and scored. And Kaká in this game, especially first half, was running the show, I remember. And yeah, he showed his class when he sent Crespo through for Milan's third.
That was amazing. He shit the keeper as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that was just brilliant. And in Steven Gerrard's words, Liverpool were outclassed. I think bookies put them at 359-1 at halftime to come back and win the Champions League. And yeah, in the queue for the toilets, apparently there is an anecdote. A well-dressed Milan fan was like gestured to them with a praying motion and a frown and a look that almost said like, please don't blame me. I know my team has just humiliated your team, but it's not my fault, because I think he was in the Liverpool end. And Benitez brought on Didi Hamann, and who just sort of neutralised Kaká in that game. And then it was almost like the Gerrard show. He scored, because Hamann came on, it freed Gerrard up to go further forward. And then he scored that brilliant header, which I don't know how he managed to score. Yeah. And then, they scored, this time they scored, 3 goals in 6 minutes. And the biggest thing is Milan should have scored in the last minute of normal time. Shevchenko was basically a yard out, and somehow Dudek saved this shot and it just went over. It's one of the best saves I've ever seen. And obviously Dudek carried that on by dancing on the line. I don't know if you guys remember, he did this bizarre leg dance. And Shevchenko did the worst penalty I've ever seen, straight down the middle to send Liverpool into dreamland, really. The only low point is Liverpool screaming 5 times every year since, which made me tempted not to put it as my best game. But yeah, it was just incredible to see Gerrard lift that trophy as well. After all those years of hurt since Hazel, really. It's just brilliant. There's been loads of other games of note, though, isn't there? Like Chelsea-Barcelona 2012, I remember.
That was mad. Yeah, that was crazy.
With Gary Neville doing his commentary.
Torres! I love that as well, because Torres, who's been such a icon, Premier League kind of star for so long, went to Chelsea, was bad, and then does that against a team that he will have some rivalry with, in Barcelona, being an Atletico man himself. It's just it's just so funny.
I think you've also got the PSG Barca, which we've mentioned before.
Man.
The Milan Barca final in 1994 was hilarious because Cruyff was being really cocky before the game, saying it's almost a foregone conclusion we're going to win, and then Milan spanked them 4-0, which was
brutal.
Brilliant. I think Munich United 99, that was pretty impressive, wasn't it? I always look at Inter Spurs as well with the Gareth Bale night when we went 4-0 down. I think we got I want to say red card, and Bale just destroyed Maicon's career, who at that point was the best right back in the world, and he got absolutely rinsed in that game. All right, well, let's move on and look at this season's Champions League. Just what are your boys' thoughts on it? I know we discussed it briefly, but yeah.
It's mad. It's been so good. Like, I mean, it's the fact that every single time there's been a match on, I've tried to watch it, and every single time I've been like happy I've watched it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with the Champions League, you'll watch a match and you'll be like, well, I didn't really, didn't need to watch that. But this season, I think pretty much every single match has been enjoyable to watch for some reason. Yeah. Like, it's not always, it's been an absolutely blistering game, but sometimes, there's some weird decisions, and there's always been drama. I think that's the thing. Yeah. There's been drama in every single game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think there's been so many shock results, so many different things you wouldn't have predicted. I know the past couple of years have been like some really good football, and you've seen some shocks, but the shocks typically been Barcelona have come back from however many goals behind or whatever it is. But this year you've kind of got Ajax knocking out Real Madrid,
and
you've got and Juventus. Like, you've got so many kind of. It's nice to have a few just different teams winning it as well, or like kind of doing really well this year. That's what I think is the main difference. Like, you've got completely different teams. Like, you never would have expected Tottenham to get as far as they have. You never would have expected Ajax to get as far as they have. You wouldn't have expected Liverpool to get through after the first leg. Just so many things have gone that way.
Yeah, I think it's the year of the underdog, isn't it? Like, half of the 14 knockout ties have been won by a team given less than a 1 in 3 chance of progress after the first leg. Yeah, it's just outrageous stuff. And yeah, I think the big thing, like, just sums up that Spurs Ajax game. Mora's hat-trick was the first by a Spurs player in the knockout phase. He had 3 left-footed shots on the night, all went in. These are his only left-footed shots in this season's Champions League, and Mora is right-footed.
Unreal.
Yeah, and even games like as we were saying earlier, you forget about that Juventus Atletico comeback. You forget about that United PSG game. That's how good this season's been.
They get overshadowed every round.
Yeah, although what I will say, PSG must be the sort of biggest underachievers in Champions League history. They've only reached one semi-final, and that was in 1995.
Yeah, they love a bottle job.
Well, yeah. Anyway, we've got a final coming up Saturday. What are you boys doing to watch it, and what are your predictions?
So one of my flatmates is graduating this year, so they're having a massive graduation party at my house. Unfortunately, on the same day that A, the summer ball is on, and B, the Champions League final is on. So that's going to be an interesting mix of people who are here for all three things. We're gonna get a projector and put it on the wall and just watch the final before the party all properly kicks off. So I'm quite excited for that.
Have you seen that the summer ball aren't showing the Champions League?
Yeah, that is absolutely outrageous.
I'd be selling my ticket.
I actually would be. I would be as well. I'd much rather be in a pub than the summer ball.
Yeah. Summer ball's quite I guess we sort of have to go next year. But
yeah, I'll go final year, but other than that, I'm not fussed about going. I haven't been the past 2 years. I'm definitely not going back over to Bath to go this year.
I feel like I'm not missing out. Like,
yeah. Do you think Liverpool are going to do the job then? I think they're the overwhelming favourites.
I think they will. I want Tottenham to win it, personally.
Yeah, I'm with Joe on this. I think Liverpool are favourites. I think realistically they're the better team. But if there's one season that Tottenham can do it, it'll be this season. And maybe it'll be some stupid result like, I don't know, Liverpool will go 2-0 up and Tottenham will go and win like 3-2 or something, or like 4-2.
I think it'll be an amazing
I think
game.
there'll be some drama no matter what happens.
What's Spurs league form been against Liverpool this season?
I think they've beaten us twice, but it's been very, very close. All games between Tottenham and Liverpool are pretty close. Liverpool have got the better of us on 2 games, and I think they were lucky against us in that game at Anfield. I think Sissoko went down the other end. That went down one end of the pitch. Should have scored to win us the game. and then it was like a ricochet off Alderweireld off like a Salah shot. Like I think Salah shot, Lloris saved it, and then it went back in off Alderweireld.
Yeah.
So they've had a lot of luck, but I just think like obviously I'm a Spurs fan. I don't think we'll get to another Champions League final in a long time. This is our best chance of winning this tournament in maybe a generation, maybe more than a generation. But we've sort of been against the odds on every single round.
Yeah.
Like, there was a point in the group stage where we only had a 15% chance of progression.
I remember joking about you definitely not getting through.
Well, we shouldn't have got through really, but we somehow managed to drag ourselves through.
Didn't Inter save you there?
Well, they drew at PSV, and we had to basically match their results. We were we were going there thinking, oh, we've got to beat Barcelona because PSV will surely get beaten by Inter. But then they were drawing, and then Lucas Moura goal in the 85th minute somehow managed to drag us through.
Scored a few important ones, hasn't he?
He scored quite a few this season. It's like he got at Old Trafford in one of the first games of the season. He basically won us that game as well.
Mm.
I just think that there's something seems to be in the air. It seems to be going our way, and I hope that translates into the final because we've had a lot of bad luck in the last 20 odd years. So to get through, hopefully, the gods are smiling on us. I'll personally be watching it at home. I was tempted to go to the stadium, but I think it will be just easier with all the Tottenham fans in the family coming like round our house for a barbecue and then watching the final, which would be pretty unreal.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I think that'd be cool.
What about you, Tom? What are you doing?
I have no plans. I literally have nothing planned.
Go to Bath with Joe. Watch it on the projector. I think Marsden's going down, isn't he?
Nah, it's my sister's birthday on the Sunday, so I can't go over to Bath for the weekend.
Maybe watching your brother. Nice.
Yeah, probably.
All right, well, are we done here, I think?
I think we are.
All right, thank you guys for listening to Nothing Worth Saying. I know we've mixed up the format a bit today. We're usually politics. But because of the Champions League final, because my team's in it, I thought, why not? Let's do a Champions League one. So, yeah, thanks for listening.